Hi, everyone. I'm Deepthi Rao. I'm a product TPM at Facebook, and I'd love to talk about the product TPM role at Facebook today. Uh, so we'll start off with my career journey. I'll give you a glimpse of what I've been doing so far in my career. Then we'll dive into who product TPMs are at Facebook, what we do, and uh, and then some myths I'd like to clarify on this role, and then we'll dive into where product PPMs fit in typically at Facebook. And we'll also discuss some of the top skills that are required for you to be a top product TPM at Facebook as well. So feel free to put in your questions if you have any on the chat thread. Happy to answer them. Let's jump in. So my career journey, I started my career as an engineer back in the day when Harman was called Aditi Technologies. So I started my career in a very technical role. I moved on to Microsoft where I was a technical evangelist. So it's a techno marketing role. And then I spent a lot of time at Manhattan Associates, which is a supply chain product company. I started out as a business analyst. Then I moved on to being a solutions architect there. So after a while at Manhattan, I moved to Amazon, where I was the senior product manager for the demand forecasting and supply chain optimization tools. So I've been with Facebook since 2016. I started out as an enterprise product manager. We were building products for the enterprise group or internal Facebook teams. And now I am a product technical program manager, or the PTPM as we call it, at Facebook Pay. So we build products or payment experiences for products within Facebook. What that means is we enable monetization on any of the social products that Facebook has. Paid online events is one that you might have seen or used. There's also a bunch of other products coming up. I'm happy to talk a little bit more as we go through the presentation. So as you can see, I've played a lot of different roles, and I think that actually set me up very well to be a product technical program manager. And we'll see why. So who are these people at Facebook? So this was in 2019, Facebook published this in the careers blog, where they called out this role as the secret ingredient that drives Facebook's product teams. And you'll see why as we go through the presentation. Even though it's not a role that's as well known as, say, a product manager role, it is now becoming an integral part of every product team within Facebook. So product TPMs are a unique blend of technical leadership and program management skills. And when I say technical, it's a mix of systems design and product strengths. Not exactly where you would need to code, but you should understand the architecture and how all the different areas of the product fit in technically. So with this blend, we help accelerate the delivery of products and programs at Facebook. So I know that's a lot of words, so let's break it down. So on the product side, product TPMs own execution. So we also influence the product direction and strategy, but from an ownership perspective, we are the drivers of product execution. On the technical side, we are the champions of building product platforms. So we always look to see how the decisions we're making can be used across the board in a more platform in a more platform standpoint, so that you can reuse. So we look at how you could reuse different aspects of the product. So we look at it in a more broader perspective than, say, an engineer would look at it. And with this vision and with this unique perspective of looking at the technical aspects of the product, we also influence the architecture and scalability decisions that are made within the product. And then there's the program aspect, where we break down complexity. We take large, ambiguous problems and create bite-sized chunks so that they can be executed to success. We also create efficient processes that can be repeated So we champion reusability, we champion uh, creating processes that help teams execute at maximum efficiency. And we also understand, identify, and mitigate risks. So we basically remove all the barriers that would exist in order to successfully deliver ship products. So that's the management aspect of our role. And then there's also the management of the leadership aspect, where the PTPMs are the cross-functional leaders. Besides the core team for a product, there's also a lot of cross-functional teams that you typically need to interact with. Could be design, partnerships, marketing, depending on what your product is, could be finance, tax, etc. So the PTPM kind of acts as the glue and the single point of contact in order to keep all the cross-functional team interactions together. So all in all, we leverage all these aspects of our skills and our role in order to drive and ship products to completion. So I hope that made it a little bit clear. If not, if you still have questions, I'm hoping that we can answer that as we go through the presentation as well. Okay, so now that we have all these different aspects of a PTPM role, what exactly do we do? And it's a very valid question. And I think if you don't ask these questions, it becomes almost like a nightmare, right? Like things fall through the cracks, and people don't know whose job is it to do what if you don't have clear ownership. And I really like this picture that depicts what happens when people don't know whose job it is to do what. So let's see in a typical product environment where the PTPMs fit in and how the role, where the boundaries lie. And when I say boundaries, especially at Facebook, and I think in most companies, these boundaries are not very hard. So typically they're in flux. But if you were to look at a product team where there is an engineering team, an engineering manager, and then there's the product manager, and then a TPM, how do we all interact and where do we take ownership? I think this is a good depiction of a typical product team where all the three roles exist. So Eng always takes the core product implementation. So they take care of deciding what to code, what the design is, how they'll implement it, and what the systems architecture needs to be. So the PM or the product manager typically takes care of defining the vision of the product, defining what problems we're solving, why do we even need to build this product, and who's the set of people that we are solving these problems for, which is the product market fit, and then defining those requirements. So those are typical areas of ownership. Where the PM and the TPM overlap is in understanding that product context, because TPM also decides the scope of the product in terms of more from the execution standpoint. So the TPM takes over once the vision and the high level requirements have been defined, and the TPM actually puts them into executionable chunks. So we define the exact scope, what the priorities are. We define how we would measure success at some points, and we break the requirements into pieces and milestones that the Eng can take and run with. We define the execution strategy. That's where prioritization and all of that comes into picture. And then we also identify the technical dependencies. And that's where we overlap with the Eng, because we understand the product context and we understand all the technical requirements that go with it, and we can identify where dependencies lie, not just within our team and project, but across the board as well. And then we are also the influencer in the sense that we understand the risks, the dependencies, and we influence a lot of decisions that would enable us to simplify execution and also scale it. So I hope that clarifies. Again, not every team would have all the three roles. There are teams where The PM plays the role of the TPM and the vice versa as well. There are teams where TPMs and the ends work together. Sometimes there are no product managers. So it varies a lot with team context. But I think in a very typical ideal world, this is where the roles would overlap and the roles would also be separated. Uh, I would like to. I think I also like this depiction of who leads or owns a specific function and then who supports it. Because if you were to look at three phases in a product life cycle, one is setting the strategy and vision, where the lead or the owner is the product manager. But that doesn't mean that the TPM and EM are left out. We support that function where we add inputs, we influence based on the unique perspectives that we bring. Similarly, if you were to talk about the solutioning aspect, where you're actually building that product or executing on the vision, the solution lead is the engineering manager. They define the architecture, and the engineering manager and the tech leads. But the TPM and the PM act as supporting functions in that phase of the project, where we provide inputs in order to make the solution best fit the strategy and vision. And if you were to look at the orchestration and the execution piece, the TPM is the lead or the owner of that phase, and the PM and the EM support it. So, and every product life cycle goes through these three phases. And while PM, EM, and TPM work in tandem, they also have some areas of ownership that are distinct. So I hope that clarifies what the PTPM role is and where PMs fit in, where engineering managers fit in. Okay, so with that said, there's a few misconceptions, and typically PTPM, as it is called at Facebook, is known as technical product manager in some companies. Some companies just call them program managers. There are no product and program manager distinction. Typically, in those companies like Microsoft, they're all called program managers. But at Facebook, we do have different roles. There's different, some teams even have project managers, some teams have just product managers. So I would like to clarify some misconceptions or myths about the role. So the first myth is that TPMs are just project managers. While project management, yes, is an aspect of our role, it is not the only thing that we do. So PTPMs are also the technical and product leaders, and we define and build products along with the PMs and the EMs. So project managers might not have full context on the technical aspect or the product aspect, versus the TPMs are more full blown in terms of their contribution towards these aspects of the product lifecycle. The second myth is that PTPMs are just there to support and scale EMs and PMs. So we're more like an assistant PM or an assistant EM, which is not the case, because we have clear, distinct ownership, and we work along with the PMs and the EMs in order to efficiently execute on the product roadmap. So we are. It's true that sometimes TPMs double up as PMs and PMs double up as TPMs, but in the ideal world, where in a team where all three exist, each of them has their own specific areas of ownership. Sometimes it might be vertical, where the PM and the TPM agree that, okay, these two projects, maybe the TPM owns and drives, and the PM takes over a couple others. Or it could be that within the same project, the PM owns the first few pieces, which is the vision setting strategy, and then the TPM takes over the entire execution. So that is a way that's how we would like to clarify our role. The other one is that TPMs are release managers, and that's a myth, because people don't understand the depth of the TPM role. The reality is that yes, we are the owners of execution, but we're not just release managers. We also own the entire roadmap planning. We also own risk identification, mitigation, because we understand the entire broad aspect of the program, and a program might consist of multiple projects. So we have the best knowledge in terms of and context, and hence we own what would be the ideal delivery cycle, but that's not the only thing that we own. But we do have the best context in order to decide what could get delivered at what time. So that's a clarification of this myth where TPMs and release managers are the same. So I hope that clarifies some of the myths about the role. And if not, I think this slide should clarify that even further. So where exactly do we have product TPMs, right? Like not every product team within Facebook has a product TPM role, although that is changing because we're being leveraged as an integral part of the product team now. But where do we fit in the best would be in three areas at Facebook. First is where you're building product platforms, where you're building platforms that's going to be used by multiple teams. So that is typically a role where a product TPM fits in, where our skills of understanding the breadth and the depth of projects and products is put to full use. So an example is the shopping platform, where the platform is being built so that it could be leveraged by Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger shopping products. And so the PTPM becomes the owner of the broad platform of the for shopping or commerce. Even the product that I am working on, we're building the payments platform for all of Facebook's social digital commerce. So our product would be used across the board by Facebook events, Oculus, Instagram. So a lot of different product teams within Facebook you will be using the payments platform, the Rails, on top of that they would build the social experiences. So that's another example of TPM playing the role where they champion the building of the product platform. Another great example where a PTPM can be leveraged is where you have a lot of cross product initiatives. So these are typically super complex projects or typically super complex programs where you have to involve multiple teams across the board and drive them towards a common vision. One example would be, I don't know if you remember, last year we launched a brand new experience on web. So we changed the entire design of and layout of Facebook on the web. And this involved, of course, almost all the product teams within Facebook. And PTPMs were one of the secret sauce ingredients that made this happen. So they understood all the dependencies across products, what were the motivations behind, and what was important for each product, and help bridge the gap across different products and made this whole project possible. And then there's also PTPMs that play a very deep domain oriented role. So those are also areas where the TPM could be leveraged. So areas like performance and ranking, where you need to understand the technology stack deeply and also have a lot of domain knowledge. Ads is another place where PTPMs could be are of great value. So again, wherever you can add value in either building a platform or where you have a lot of cross product initiatives, programs where multiple product teams are involved, or you have very deep specialized product areas. AI is another area where the specialized product knowledge is extremely important, and PTPMs are leveraged there. So these are three typical areas where product TPMs play a key role in execution and delivering on the product vision. So I hope with that you all have a better clarity and are excited about this role at Facebook. So let's dive into a few top skills that are essential to become a TPM. Uh, First thing is definitely technical chops, and although we don't have to code, you would still need to have very good understanding of the systems design, how your product is architected, how all the different pieces fit in together, because that's where you'd be leveraged. You're the glue that holds all those different pieces together in your mind. And also technical jobs when it comes to product and platform. So being able to understand the execution level details of a product is super important, and being able to articulate that in order to drive decisions is a key skill for a TPM. The next is being able to deliver or execute strategically. So to be able to deliver on a vision, not just from a project management perspective, but also being able to understand the strategic importance of the and priorities that you're working on, and make decisions that benefit in the long run the team, and also result in the team collectively achieving the vision that we set out to achieve. So that would be the second top skill. um, and next is influence, because you work with so many different teams, so many different people, and these are not people that report to you. So being able to influence and build strong relationships with your cross-functional partners, and being able to rally the team in order to execute on whatever you set out to achieve is super important. So being able to influence without authority is what we call it. So that is super important for a TPM. It's important for everyone, but more so for the PM and TPM roles. And then there's leadership, where you also provide guidance and product direction, and you also simplify complexity, where you take like a super ambiguous product or project, super ambiguous requirements, and then you simplify it to a level where people can actually execute on it. So that's where the leadership skills come in. And I think the bedrock is because there is so many softer aspects of what we do, there is a huge emotional intelligence component to it. So to be able to understand what drives different teams and people, being able to assess those dynamics, and being able to effectively collaborate and create win-win situations. So that is what is one of the most important skills. And I know it's not super easy to quantify, but it's one of the secret sauce skills for TPM that enables them to become super successful at Facebook. So I think these 5 top skills sum it up pretty well. Of course, there's the top 2, which would be the more quantifiable technical and strategic execution skills. And then the second layer, which is slightly softer, being able to influence and lead teams. And then at the core of it all, or the foundation of it all, having that the emotional intelligence to understand people, and being able to work with them, collaborate with them, and motivate them in order to create win-win situations. So that would comprise of a superstar TPM. Okay. So I think that's we've reached the end of my short presentation. I hope that was interesting, and it clarified the role. And I hope I've excited you to want to become a product TPM at Facebook. If you're interested, do reach out to me. We have our careers page where you can see all the open roles. But do reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to chat about this role, or if you have more questions, or if you want to like apply or get more insights. All right. I wish you all the very best, and hope to work with you at some point. Thanks.